the NBA Draft is 2 nights away. Wednesday night, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Ooh, and then free agency, right?
Number 1 overall pick.
Right on the heels?
Free agency starts on the 20th, so that starts on Friday night. So we're going to go a weekend of player activity. Now, the Wolves don't really have any cap space, so their activity would be trade-based, which could still happen before the draft. You guys want to jump right into this here?
Reckless speculation. Yes. Reckless speculation.
Trade talk.
Juicy rumors.
I've got some thoughts. I spent the weekend, not the whole weekend, but part of the weekend anyways, just going through like YouTube scouting videos and draft scenarios for the Wolves.
I knew this would happen.
I did some deep diving, sorting out my own personal Timberwolves draft thoughts. And I also, there's a great article in The Athletic that I want to reference here too, but I have 5 random Timberwolves draft thoughts for you guys if you're open to them.
I'm here. Yeah.
I wonder if we should pipe in some NBA music of some sort.
Oh, okay. Declan, on-air production meeting.
Yes, sir.
Team anthems page.
Okay.
Let's go to the second column from the left.
Yep.
There.
Just loop that top one there.
You got it.
There we go. This is going to be so much better now.
All right, here we go.
Yep.
It's only like a minute long, so you're going to basketball, gimme the ball so that I can go dunk it. All right,
John Tesh, go ahead.
Random thought number 1. I don't want LaMelo Ball. Period. I don't want LaMelo Ball. And I think most of the steam right now is that the Wolves have had some good discussions with LaMelo Ball. And in fact, Gerson Rosas just got done talking to the media today, and he said, let me find this verbatim because it's worth not paraphrasing. He said, addressing a need in the draft is very dangerous. Gerson stressed that the smartest teams in the league almost always take the best player available regardless of perceived fit. So he's either doing one of two things here. He's either throwing a smoke screen out, saying to the other teams like, listen, just because you don't think we need a point guard doesn't mean that we're not going to take LaMelo. So if you want LaMelo, trade up. I could see him playing calculus in that way. Or what he's doing is he's bracing Timberwolves fans for, we might take a player that, what is this one?
This is NBA Jam.
Oh, that's good.
NBA Jam.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
I'm all in.
He might be bracing Timberwolves fans for like a Wiseman or a Ball that's not a perfect fit for this roster, and that they've already got a 5. They've already got a point guard.
Yep.
But grabbing the best asset is the way to go. My take on LaMelo Ball is that not only does he have a jacked up shooting motion, just like his brother Lonzo, he was measurably the worst defender in the Australian League. There was a stat I saw on one of these scouting videos. Okay,
diving into the Australian League.
So he played 12 games in the Australian League. The rest of his career is mostly like untraceable because he didn't play college. Like the only real like quantifiable portion of his career was the 12 games in the I believe it's the National Pro Basketball League or so, whatever the hell it is. It's the Australian Pro League. And someone came up with the stat that he was the worst defender on pick and roll statistically in the entire league, which is the most run play in the NBA, pick and roll. Like he gets lost all the time against inferior players in the Australian. I get that he's only 19 and there's room to improve, but he can't shoot and he's a terrible defender. Yes, he can throw behind the back passes and he is a wonderful passer. And he's lanky and has a wide reach for a point guard, so he could maybe get hands in passing lanes. But he's basically like Ricky Rubio without the defense and with a crazy high maintenance father. So I am out on LaMelo Ball.
Okay.
I don't even think he's going to be the best asset in like 3 years if you're looking to trade. Like in a league where you need offense and you need shooting and you need defense, he doesn't really check either one of those boxes. So I'm out on him.
Okay.
Random thought number 2, Anthony Edwards, the Georgia kid, makes me nervous. Here's the consensus scouting report as I put together like a summation of all the things that I consumed this weekend, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy athletic and skilled wing player who lacks the ability to consistently make shots and has a questionable motor. Does that remind you of anybody? When's the last time we had a crazy skilled wing player that couldn't shoot and lacked motor? Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, Wiggy.
If there's even a 30% chance that Anthony Edwards is Wiggins 2.0, I'm out. I don't want to repeat that same offense. If there's other teams that want to hop up and grab him and you can make a trade, That's awesome.
The lack of the
All right.
shot thing, yeah, that's
And-
got to concern you.
And by the way, Anthony Giovanni of ESPN just put out an hour ago on ESPN Insider. He said that trades are still heavily in play for the number 1 overall pick, but the sense is the T-Wolves will now select Anthony Edwards with the number 1 pick if they stay put.
Interesting. Okay, here's another quote from Rosas. This is from Annie Sabo from Fox Sports North. We're not looking for the perfect player to be the savior of the organization. We believe in our players, our philosophy, and our staff. It's going to take time to build this organization the right way. And so he's echoing what most people are saying, which is there's not like a Zion or a LeBron. There's not that one obvious player at number 1.
Be patient.
So here's random thought number 3 for you guys. If I had to make the pick at number 1, if I couldn't swing a trade, I had to make the pick at number 1.
I think I know what you're going to do.
I would take James Wiseman.
That's what I thought you'd say.
And so two reasons for that. He might be the most intriguing player high in the draft, in that even though he can't really shoot that well yet, I wouldn't put it past an organization like Golden State or Minnesota to like find a corner 3 spot where he could jump out and hit some threes. But the fact that he is a ready-made rim protecting defender, he can run the floor. Like there's so many great things you could do with him at the 5. You could slide Cat to the 4. I know it's not a perfect fit. And by the way, James Wiseman and his camp have basically froze out the Timberwolves in this process. Like they don't want to come to Minnesota. At least that's what they're saying.
Yep.
Probably a better fit for Golden State. But if you had a rim protecting monster at the 5 and you could slide Cat to the 4 and you could sort of play matchups defensively however you need to, and then you could trade one of the 2 later if you needed to in a year or 2. I would, if I had to make the pick and it was between essentially LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, and James Wiseman, I would take Wiseman and just sort of figure out my path.
So he's the best player in the draft.
He is the player in the draft that has the most upside intrigue or intriguing upside, according to people smarter than me that scout and follow this. So random thought number 4, which is what Judd's question was in our email exchange earlier today. What is the best case scenario for the Timberwolves? In my opinion, it's the Wolves trading out of the top pick and picking up an additional asset of some kind. And so there's been chatter that Charlotte might be willing to swap the 3 and the 1, and Miles Bridges, who's a 22-year-old. We saw him in the Big Ten for a chunk of games. That Charlotte could make that trade. Chicago has been rumored, Atlanta. And so you would get an asset of some kind, and then you could draft somebody who, I don't know, maybe you feel pressure to draft LaMelo at number 1 because he's the best asset in your minds. Well, other teams could just make the decision for you, and then you pick whoever's left at 3 and you get an asset. Mm-hmm. But that brings me to random thought number 5 here, which is playing off of what Britt Robson wrote in The Athletic earlier this morning. Go check it out, Wolves fans. He did a great deep dive into what the Wolves should do on draft night on Wednesday. And he asked the questions, what do they need specifically that Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell don't have? And so he gets into the needs. And Gerson Rosas has said, whoa, you can't draft based on need. That's a mistake. But I would argue in a draft where there is no like consensus top talent, then wouldn't you want to fit need into the equation? Like if Zion's at the top or LeBron's at the top and you're like, oh, we already have that position filled, then you're an idiot if you don't still draft them. But in this case, I think considering need is important because there might be 6 players that are all sort of like in the same bin, right? Mm-hmm. And so what Britt says is the Wolves lack defense, shooting, and grit. And I agree with all those things. And those are things that like D'Angelo and Cat can shoot, but they're not the most gritty players. They tend to wilt late in games like Cat. We've criticized him for years. And both guys can't really play that great a defense. So the 2 guys he mentions that you might not draft number 1, but you might consider like number 3, although he did say he would draft one of these guys number 1. Tyrese Halliburton's a 3-point shooting wing player from Iowa State, shot 43% in 2 years at Iowa State. And I don't think you would take him number 1 by any means, but if you could get an asset, trade back, or use that 17 to trade back up into the lottery, that's a guy that could instantly make threes for you on the wing. And then the other guy, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but Onyeka Okongwu from USC, who is a 6'9" center/power forward. He's an athletic, rim protecting, rebounding energy guy, and his optimistic comp is Bam Adebayo in Miami. And so you would have kind of the soft outside shooting Cat with this hard nosed, rim protecting, energy rebounding guy that you could play those guys off the 4 and the 5 together. And Britt says flat out he would draft him with the number 1 overall pick. And I don't disagree. Like, I think a guy like that who checks actual tangible boxes is more important to the Timberwolves the next 3 to 5 years than like fixing LaMelo's shot motion.
Sure.
So those are my 5 random thoughts. My Timberwolves draft speculation.
Would drafting the Southern Cal kid over Wiseman make sense though? If you were still at 1, or is Wiseman potentially going to be good enough that you want to take him at 1?
That's a good question. I think if you're drafting number 1, you probably just take Wiseman.
Yeah.
Although the fact that he doesn't really want to play here has to be considered too. Like, to what lengths would he go to force his way out?
Sure.
I don't know. So again, I think the best case scenario is the Wolves trading out of the top pick in some way and then getting one of these other guys. I just like, why would you consider drafting a player at number 1 in LaMelo Ball who has a jacked up, needs to be fixed shooting motion, has no sense of like what a quality shot is, has a high maintenance crazy dad that we've seen. He's laid low a little bit the last couple of years, and he's measurably the worst defender in an inferior basketball league.
Because
like, those are huge red flags.
I wouldn't, but my guess, the answer to the question, I guess, is because he's 19 and you feel as a team that you can fix his problems, which might not be true.
Then
that's a problem.
And then if it was between Ball and Edwards, and it's just like, well, you got to take one of these guys because they're just the best assets, and you just have to fix their problems. I would rather try to fix Anthony Edwards' problems than LaMelo Ball's problems, because I think Anthony Edwards is a better positional fit, even though Gerson has said you shouldn't be focused on fit. In most drafts, I don't think you should focus on fit. In this one, you should consider it. So
interesting. All right.
Those are my hot takes on the Timberwolves.
I hope for their sake this time they at least land on something that's close to being right. The Edwards piece that you read about the fact that he might not be the most energetic guy on the face of the earth definitely scares me. Because I don't know that you can fix. I don't know that motors can be fixed.
And he plays, and just like Wiggins, like he plays with energy and enthusiasm and passion sometimes. But then the fact that you even have to question it other times is a huge.
But
red
I don't
flag.
think that can be. I don't know that one can be changed.
You can't fix a bad motor.
That's a personality.
Like Kobe Bryant was the perfect example of some guys are motivated when their alarm clock goes off at 3:00 in the morning, and other guys need like constant probing and prodding, and they need the Cavaliers to be in town because that's the team that traded me. It's like,
and in college it's different because one, if you're as good as this kid is, your talent outshines the vast majority of guys that you'll play against, and you also play a shortened schedule. But when you're playing 82 plus playoffs and everyone's really, really good, I think that becomes a huge problem.
Yeah, like Michael Jordan would find ways to be motivated because like the backup shooting guard for the Nets said something,
it's crazy.
And obviously like you can't just compare everyone to Michael
George
Jordan.
Karl thing though. I mean, George Karl walks by him in a restaurant and doesn't say hi.
Yeah.
And Jordan's like, well, that was terrible. That was BS.
Yeah. The other thing though with Anthony Edwards is, let's say that the motor thing is just people are just over criticizing him and that's not going to be a problem. Well, he hasn't shown the ability to make outside shots either. So, that's where like, I think this can be pretty simplified if you're the Wolves. And again, like I'm getting into the fit aspect and Gerson Rosas is saying, don't focus on fit, but you've got the 2 young stars that you're going to build around already. You got Cat and you got D'Lo. Who are the players in this draft that can best complement those guys and fill in some of the gaps?
Yeah.
And I don't think LaMelo Ball or Anthony Edwards are the 2 guys, even though they might be the 2 guys with like the most skill. I don't think those 2 guys are the ones that necessarily help Cat and D'Lo the most. So if you feel pressure because you can't get out of the number 1 pick to grab the best asset, then I would hope that you have some sort of like plan B trade in the works as the draft plays out to get what you really think will help your organization. But I don't know. LaMelo Ball, like go watch some of his shooting videos and you're telling me like that's an NBA shot. He's like, it's
no thanks,
dude. And Lonzo's shot is like weird across your face. Like where are these guys learning these shoes? Is dad just like bringing them outside?
The old man probably taught him
so weird
how to shoot the basketball. And
so,
all right, well,
we'll see what happens.
It's gonna be a fun week though.
Draft night. Yeah, we've got Vikings Monday night. We got Timberwolves draft and then NBA free agency. And oh, by the way, Major League Baseball free agency is open, I guess. Like no one's really doing anything.
Those crickets, That's baseball right now.
Yep. Salary cap would help because it would at least frame up like what teams could spend and what they can't. Now it's just a stare down.
To not spend.
Correct. Yeah,
that's the thing now.
Owners and agents
are
are
like, we ain't spending.
Agents are going to say, well, I want $20 million for that guy. And the owners are going to be like, nope. Okay, well, we're going to wait then. Like this is going to bleed into spring training probably.
Oh, hell yeah.
So
big time this year.
There are some interesting Twins things we can get into this week as well. But don't forget Purple Daily 7 days a week, Apple, Spotify, and also scorenorth.com and youtube.com/Purple Daily Podcast. If you want to see, if you're listening to Mackey and Judd, either on the radio or via podcast, if you want to actually see some of these discussions, we have a second YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/ScoreNorthMN.